And so good on Joan Garcia to go into Espanyol and have his best game of the season, his best game with Barcelona. The subtle saves that he made today were world class, and I don't have to go any further than Shaka Hislop for him to describe exactly how Shaq-tastic he was today.
Okay, we need to talk about how good Joan Garcia really is.
לעבר השער, עדיין רוברטו בועט, ז'ואן גרסיה עוצר. לא נגמר!
In a season where FC Barcelona are living dangerously, defending on the halfway line, inviting transitions, conceding space by design, one position has quietly become the difference between dominance and disaster, and his name is Joan Garcia. The stats tell you something's working. Since he's come in, Garcia has started 13 league games, 7 clean sheets, only 9 goals conceded, 33 saves, and here's the kicker. Barca's record with him between the posts? 12 wins, a draw, and 0 losses. Then there was that game against Espanyol, the club where he grew up. Hostile crowd, massive pressure, the whole thing. And Garcia just showed up, save after save, staying calm when it mattered most, keeping Barcelona in it until Dani Olmo and Lewandowski finally broke through late. He walked away with man of the match honors in a 2-0 win that easily could have gone sideways.
דולן מחכה ברחוק ופרמיה! איזו הצלה של ז'ואן גרסיה. Wow.
Here's the thing about this Barcelona team under Flick. They give up chances. Good ones. Breakaways, one-on-ones. The kind that make you hold your breath. The offside trap works brilliantly most of the time. They're catching teams out constantly, but when it doesn't, someone's through on goal, and that's where Garcia has made all the difference. There's this growing sense that the team can push even higher, press even harder, because they trust what's behind them now. They believe he'll bail them out when things go wrong. And in Flick's system, that belief isn't optional. It's essential.
Juan Garcia, والله العظيم Juan Garcia. You know Juan Garcia, fam, he can save everything.
It wasn't always like this. Stegen gave Barcelona incredible years, but injuries caught up with him and things got shaky. The temporary fixes helped get by, but nobody felt like they were the long-term answer. Barcelona needed someone who could handle the madness of a high line, someone ready for the responsibility. So they put down around 25 million euros and took a chance. Under Flick, that chance is already looking like one of the smartest moves they've made. This is the story of how Barcelona got their swagger back and how Joan Garcia became the reason they can play the way they do. Joan Garcia didn't just appear out of nowhere and suddenly become Barcelona's #1. There was someone else who made that possible. Someone who doesn't get nearly enough credit for what he did. Wojciech Szczęsny came in, did exactly what was needed, and quietly made sure the whole thing didn't fall apart in the meantime. Last season, Barcelona didn't bring in Szczęsny thinking he was the long-term answer. They brought him in because they needed someone steady, someone experienced, someone who'd been there, done that at the highest level, and wouldn't crack under pressure. The goalkeeper position had become a bit of a mess, and they just needed it to work again. And that's exactly what Szczęsny gave them. His job wasn't to revolutionize anything, it was to hold things together. While other parts of the team were dealing with injuries and inconsistency, Barcelona needed someone in goal who just knew what to do. Someone who could read the game, manage situations smartly, and not give anyone a reason to worry on big nights. Szczęsny did all that without much fanfare. He wasn't flashy, but he wasn't a problem either. And in a team going through transition, that was absolutely huge. That season ended pretty well, actually. Barcelona won the domestic treble, LaLiga, Copa del Rey, Spanish Super Cup. Obviously that's a team achievement, but Szczęsny was part of why it happened. He gave the defense confidence, he kept things stable, he let the team compete on multiple fronts without constantly worrying that everything could collapse defensively at any moment. But here's the thing, Barcelona knew the whole time that stability wasn't the same as moving forward. Szczęsny could protect what they had, but he wasn't built for where they were trying to go. This new system, high line, aggressive, demanding, needed something different. His game was about experience and control, not the kind of sweeper-keeper expansion Flick's setup required, and the club understood that. So when this season started, the roles became clear. Joan Garcia was the starter, the guy they were betting on. Szczęsny stepped into exactly the role he was perfect for. Experienced backup, mentor, safety net. His presence kept the standards high in training, entertaining and gave Barcelona real quality depth at one of the most crucial positions. Meanwhile, Marc-André ter Stegen, who used to be the guy, found himself further down the pecking order, not central to the plan anymore, but still around. Iñaki Peña, who'd filled in during emergencies before, moved on as the club cleaned things up. By the time this season found its rhythm, everything was clear. Garcia was the future. Szczęsny was the experienced hand. Ter Stegen was depth, not dependency. And that's really what makes Szczęsny's contribution so important. He didn't get in the way, and he didn't let things fall apart. He bridged the gap, he carried the club through a messy transition, helped them win trophies along the way, and handed over a position that was finally ready to move forward. Only after crossing that bridge could Barcelona fully commit to the goalkeeper they're building everything around now. When FC Barcelona committed fully to a high-risk, high-reward identity under Hansi Flick, one truth became unavoidable. The goalkeeper could no longer be just a shot stopper. He had to be a structural pillar. Barcelona's defensive line now regularly sits near the halfway line. Center-backs step aggressively into midfield, full-backs push high, and the press is triggered early. The upside is territorial dominance and ball control. The downside is exposure. When that first press is broken, opponents are suddenly running into open space with time to pick their moment. One missed interception can turn into a one-on-one within seconds. That context is critical to understanding why Joan Garcia has mattered so much so quickly. Statistically, Barcelona have not been a low-chance conceding team this season. They allow transition shots, fast breaks, and high-quality looks from central zones more often than the traditional idea of control football would suggest. What has changed is what happens after those chances are created. Since Garcia's arrival, Barcelona have combined that aggressive structure with a goalkeeper capable of surviving it. Through his first 13 La Liga appearances, Garcia has helped deliver 7 clean sheets, conceding just 9 goals overall. That alone is impressive, but it understates the difficulty of the saves he's been asked to make. His save percentage sits around the high 70s, and a significant portion of his stops have come from situations where the defensive line is already beaten. Breakaways, cutbacks after fast transitions, and shots taken inside the box. More importantly, Barcelona's results with Garcia in goal have been flawless in the league. 12 wins and 1 draw, no defeats. That is not coincidence, it's consequence. His profile fits Flick's model precisely. Garcia is proactive off his line, comfortable sweeping behind a high defense, and decisive in one-on-one situations. He does not retreat early. He delays, narrows angles, and forces attackers into rushed decisions. That ability alone changes how center backs defend. They can hold their line half a second longer. They can step forward instead of dropping. Over the course of a match, those margins compound. Distribution is another key piece. Garcia's passing under pressure has allowed Barcelona to reset shape quickly after defensive actions. He's not asked to play Hollywood passes. He's asked to be reliable, calm, and accurate. Short releases to restart possession, clipped balls into full backs, and quick throws to launch counters when opponents are stretched. That composure matters when the system itself is designed to play on the edge. The Espanyol match crystallized all of this. Facing his former club in a hostile stadium, Garcia was tested repeatedly while Barcelona labored to create clear chances. He made multiple high-value saves, controlled his area under pressure, and kept the game level until Barcelona struck late. That performance wasn't an outlier. It was a concentrated example of what he's been doing quietly all season. This is why Barcelona invested around 25 million euros in him, not because they needed a headline signing, but because their football demanded a goalkeeper who could absorb pressure without transmitting panic. Garcia hasn't just filled a position, he has enabled an entire tactical idea to function, and once a team trusts the man behind them, everything in front starts to move differently. Barcelona's move for Joan Garcia was not a reaction to one bad run or a single injury crisis. It was a succession plan shaped by years of warning signs. For almost a decade, Marc-André ter Stegen defined the role at Barcelona. At his peak, he was among Europe's elite, an exceptional shot stopper with the feet to play under pressure. But as the seasons accumulated, availability became unreliable. Recurrent injuries disrupted rhythm, and the margin for error in Barcelona's system kept shrinking. When a goalkeeper misses months rather than matches, the system adapts around survival instead of progress. Barcelona's short-term responses reflected that reality. Experience was prioritized. Reliability mattered more than evolution. The club needed someone who could step in, steady the dressing room, and see out competitions without drama. That approach worked in moments, enough to keep the machine running, enough to collect domestic silverware, but it never addressed the core issue. The goalkeeper role was no longer aligned with where Barcelona wanted to go. Under Hansi Flick, alignment became non-negotiable. Flick's football is built on vertical compactness, aggressive counter-pressing, and constant territorial pressure. That approach compresses matches into smaller spaces, but it also magnifies every defensive error. When opponents break the press, they do so into open grass. At that point, the goalkeeper becomes the final defender, not metaphorically, but literally. This is where Garcia's profile stood apart in Barcelona's internal evaluation. He wasn't just assessed on saves made, but on situations managed, one-on-ones delayed, crosses claimed instead of punched, decision-making speed when sweeping outside the box. His numbers at Espanyol showed consistency under pressure, but more importantly, they showed composure in losing game states, matches where his team conceded territory and chances. Since stepping into Barcelona's starting role, that composure has translated immediately. Garcia has faced a high volume of shots from inside the penalty area relative to many title-chasing goalkeepers, yet his goals conceded per match remains low. That gap between danger allowed and damage suffered is the clearest indicator of goalkeeper value in a high-line system. There's also a psychological shift that numbers only hint at. Barcelona's backline now defends with intent rather than hesitation. Fullbacks commit earlier, center-backs step into midfield instead of retreating. Midfielders counter-press knowing that one broken line doesn't automatically mean a goal conceded. That confidence flows outward from the goalkeeper. At 24 years old, Garcia fits Barcelona's long-term planning almost perfectly. He's young enough to grow with the system, experienced enough to handle pressure immediately, and stylistically suited to modern elite football. The reported €25 million investment reflects that balance. Not a gamble on potential, but a calculated decision to secure stability for the next cycle. This wasn't about replacing a legend overnight. It was about ensuring that Barcelona's most demanding tactical era had a goalkeeper capable of carrying its weight. And as the season unfolds, it's becoming clear that this wasn't just succession, it was evolution. Sure, that Espanyol derby in January was when everyone started paying attention, but honestly, Joan Garcia had already been doing the work, the quiet, unglamorous work that goalkeepers do when no one's really watching, racking up results, making the saves that don't always make the highlight reels, but absolutely keep you in games. It all started on day one. Barcelona's season opener was away at Mallorca, never an easy trip even when things are going well. Garcia made his LaLiga debut that night, and Barca won 3-0. The scoreline sounds comfortable, but what mattered was how he played. Clean sheet, made every save he needed to, completed literally every pass he attempted. According to the club's records, that put him in rare company. One of just a handful of Barcelona keepers since 2000 to win on their league debut, and only the second to do it without conceding. It wasn't flashy, but it told the coaching staff everything. This kid gets it. The real test came at Rayo Vallecano. Barcelona couldn't get their rhythm going. The press fell apart, and suddenly it felt like damage control. That's when Garcia stepped up. He made save after save in a 1-1 draw, genuinely keeping them in it when things were slipping away. La Liga gave him man of the match, and one of his stops even won best save of the month for August. Not just because it looked good, but because people were starting to realize this wasn't a fluke. Before an injury threw things off, Garcia just kept showing up. In his first 7 games, Barcelona conceded only 5 goals total, 3 clean sheets against Mallorca, Valencia, and Getafe. Nothing spectacular, just solid. The kind of steady, week-in, week-out reliability that lets a team actually trust what they're doing defensively. And it wasn't just La Liga either. His Champions League debut came at Newcastle. Loud crowd, intense atmosphere, big step up. Barcelona's own coverage called it a night of shining debuts, highlighting how composed Garcia looked on the European stage. For a young keeper still finding his feet, that kind of performance under pressure said a lot. Then came the injury. Torn meniscus in his left knee, surgery, 4 to 6 weeks out, maybe more. For a goalkeeper trying to build chemistry with a new backline and adapt to this high-risk system, that's the kind of thing that can completely derail you. Except it didn't. When Garcia came back after 58 days, Barcelona threw him straight into the deep end, and he delivered. They beat Athletic Club 4-0. Another clean sheet right out of the gate, like he'd never been gone. By early January, you couldn't ignore what was happening anymore. 13 league games, 7 clean sheets, less than 10 goals conceded, and Barcelona sitting pretty at the top of the table whenever he played. Week after week, the same story. This team could take risks because they knew the guy behind them had their back. These weren't one-off heroics, they were building blocks. Game by game, Joan Garcia wasn't just filling a spot, he was earning the kind of trust that turns a good goalkeeper into your goalkeeper, the one you build around. Barcelona's story this season is often told through bold ideas. A higher line, relentless pressing, risk embraced rather than avoided. But systems like that only survive when the most vulnerable position is secure. And today, Joan Garcia is the reason that vulnerability has turned into confidence. This wasn't a sudden rise. It was a season built on checkpoints, clean sheets on debut, survival jobs away from home, calm returns after injury, and decisive nights when the margin for error was zero. With him in goal, Barcelona don't flinch. They play the same football whether they're chasing a game or protecting a lead. The transition was managed, not rushed. Wojciech Szczęsny provided the stability needed to win and move forward. The club made its decision with clarity, not sentiment, and under Hansi Flick, that decision is already shaping how far Barcelona believe they can go. At just 24 years old, Garcia isn't the finished product, but he doesn't need to be. He's reliable where it matters, decisive when it counts, and trusted by a team built on risk. For the first time in years, Barcelona aren't asking their goalkeeper to simply survive their football. They're asking him to define it. And if this season is any indication, the wall behind Barcelona isn't just holding firm, it's becoming the foundation of what comes next.